Your bloods are normal, your BP's normal, your ECG is normal. Looking at these results here, I can't seem to find anything wrong with you at all.
But the pain?
Well, yeah, that could be a number of things. It could be muscular, if your work involves you having to sit in the same position for any length of time.
He asks me if my work involves sitting in the same position for any length of time. 12 hours every day, my friend. That's what they pay me for.
Yeah. Well, might I suggest if the pain persists, you consult your GP. In the meantime, I will get one of our nurses to discharge you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Valentine.
Like a very swift diagnosis.
He's a hypochondriac.
Oh?
His BP, bloods, ECG are normal. The only symptoms are nondescript abdo pain.
Sounds like a rather unimaginative hypochondriac. Now, I have a question for you. Answer it carefully. Should you be here?
Why shouldn't I be?
When you returned from your compassionate leave for exactly 1 day, and Mr. Malik had to send you home again.
Have you spoken to him?
I'm his consultant. I speak to him most days. The point is, since this is your first day back from extended compassionate leave, I have to fill in your 6-week post-traumatic MOT for HR. They do like us to jump through these hoops. I shall tell them that you don't appear to be an immediate suicide risk. No need to confiscate your belt and shoelaces quite yet.
Since you started here, there have been a lot of redundancies.
And you'd like to know how you dodged the axe?
My track record isn't great, I know that.
Well, I'll do you the courtesy of being entirely honest with you. As you know, the inquest didn't hold this hospital responsible for your sister's death, but it certainly didn't make us look good. Now, if in the direct aftermath of an F2's death we'd fired that F2's brother, how would that have played? Not to mention the fact that you would have had a very strong case for a potentially extortionate unfair dismissal claim. So hideous though the irony may be, her death granted you a kind of reprieve. When I was 16, I had an extremely important mathematics examination. Well, it was very important at the time. Trigonometry. On the morning of the exam, I happened to open a newspaper, and I was surprised to learn on page 2 that the previous day, my father had died. Suddenly, shockingly. It was the first and last time I failed anything. My father's death was regrettable, obviously, but what really grated was I was denied the chance to resit. That blemish remains on my academic record to this day.
Mr. Hanssen.
A final year medical student who fails one OCSE fails the whole year. Seems a tad brutal, doesn't it?
Not when you consider what's at stake.
Well, there is that, I suppose. Nevertheless, let's imagine for one moment a young trainee doctor who cheats in one practical assessment. Let's say, for the sake of argument, the PLAB OCSE 2-station on venous cannula puncture. Now, this doctor we're talking about is an extremely talented and very promising young doctor. Top drawer grades, pretty much across the board. But he has one fatal flaw. A fear of failure so crippling that he'll do almost anything to avoid it. Why would that be?
Maybe he doesn't want to let people down.
Granted. But the doctor we're talking about has only ever made one serious medical error in his entire career to date. He left a swab in a patient. Now, that's a mistake that other, more experienced doctors have made, and it's not a mistake that anyone makes twice.
For what it's worth, this doctor, he regrets all of it, every lie. He wishes he could start again. Do everything differently this time.
One of the cardiac patients came to see me today, Mr. Sharma, a rather garrulous individual. Ring any bells? Anyway, he tells me that you insisted on running test after test after test on him because you were determined to get to the bottom of his condition. And that meant that you ignored the opinions of a senior nurse, a registrar, and a senior consultant.
Yes.
And not only was your hunch proven correct, but you then managed to perform an incredibly intricate venous cannula puncture in the back of a moving ambulance, thus saving his life.
I was lucky.
Well, that's not what he thinks. He thinks you're the best doctor this hospital has. He thinks I'd be insane to lose you. He asked me to give you this. He wants you to have it. Something to do with karma, apparently.
So, Mr. Hanssen, about my letter.
What letter would that be?
Why did you ask me to come here?
Evidently, it's exactly 10 weeks since your sister died, and I have to fill in your 10-week post-traumatic MOT for HR. They do like us to jump through these hoops. They'll want to know whether or not you've sufficiently recovered your emotional equilibrium to resume full duties. What shall we tell them? Are you ready to start again, Dr. Valentine?